Luke DeCock, Raleigh News and Observer sports columnist for 17 years covering North Carolina football. Well, last time I had you on, I don't know how optimistic you sounded there, but how's morale in North Carolina today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that things did not go as planned in the Bill Belichick debut last night. It's funny, the first 6 minutes, they get out there, 83-yard touchdown drive, very clean, very crisp, three and out on their first defensive series. And you were like, oh, hey, maybe these guys did split the atom. And then the next 54 minutes looked like pretty much every era of North Carolina football and the history of North Carolina football. The talent level, I think, is the more disturbing thing than the coaching. It just, it looked almost like one of the late David Cutcliffe era Duke teams, or where you're just kind of getting beat at every position. The secondary was full of transfers. It got torn apart. Their two best offensive players were guys who were holdovers from the Mac Brown era. It did not look like an ACC caliber team. It looked like, a stew of a bunch of things thrown together, hoping that this celebrity chef could make something out of it. And, you're up against an established program with a philosophy and a foundation and a background. And TCU did what you would expect them to do. They went up against a team they didn't know anything about. They made quick adjustments, effective adjustments, and UNC never adjusted. It was kind of the debacle the last time you and I talked. We are like, how bad could this potentially get? I think this is how bad it could potentially get.
Okay, it is one game, and I always caution people, whether they're criticizing Arch Manning or Alabama, it's one game. But there can be breadcrumbs that are put down that you go, I don't know, if I keep following this, it may end up worse than this. I think the over-under was 8.5 for Carolina. Where would you stand on that bet today?
Yeah, I'm still under. I mean, I think to get to 9 wins, 10 wins, you had to win this one. That's kind of predicated on getting off to a good start. You win the TCU game. You've got all this hype. You got Michael Jordan, Lawrence Taylor, Mia Hamm, Roy Williams. Not that Roy misses a UNC football game, but you had the national sports world watching, and Herb Street and Reese Davis and Pat McAfee and Herbie's dog, and like everybody on the planet's watching this football game. And you're trying to capture all this momentum. You had 9 months to prepare. The eyes of the world are on Chapel Hill. You got all these stuff that they've trademarked, Chapel Bill and Bill's version and all this stuff. And then you go out and lay an egg like that. It certainly, if this was going to be what we had been pitched, what the UNC boosters and trustees had paid all these millions of dollars for, it was not going to look like this off the hop. Now, yeah, it doesn't mean that they can't regroup and figure things out and maybe make some changes in terms of who's playing and who's on the depth chart. But, the vision that was out there did not start like this. This was pretty grim. And to be honest, that second half, TCU comes out, scores a 75-yard touchdown on the first play. Carolina coughs it up for another TCU touchdown. I mean, it's I hate to say like a team quit, but it did look like Carolina ran out of gas physically and emotionally and just couldn't keep up in the second half. That's not a great sign in terms of what are the breadcrumbs in terms of what could work going forward when you had 6 minutes of good football that you had 9 months to prepare for and everything else fell apart after that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to bring up, Luke, that you had all this time to prepare for this opponent. You bring in 70 new players. Yes, you have Bill Belichick, the king of adjustments. And I'm thinking, all right, TCU is showing some life here offensively. Bill will make changes. He did that famously with the Patriots. I just don't know if you can ask an 18 or 19 or 20-year-old to make adjustments on the fly like he was asking professionals in New England, and maybe he didn't have the talent that he thought, because there felt like a real disparity, in the second half of the haves and the have-nots.
And I honestly think it could have been worse in the first half. There were opportunities for TCU to throw the ball that they weren't taking because they really were, like it's football, right? We're going to establish the run game and go through our scheme and get everything set up. And there were chances to take shots deep against North Carolina secondary in the first half. The TCU passed on. They did not in the second half. And that would be the number one thing that would worry me if I were Bill Belichick, Mr. Defense. I mean, maybe there just weren't enough lacrosse players out there, but the secondary's inability to cover. And then the inability to get pressure. I mean, it was just sort of a cascading series of failures on defense. And then what happened at that point in the second half is the complete inability to tackle. So now we've gone from adjustments to cascading failures to just fundamentals. And if I'm Bill Belichick, that's what's going to keep me up last night more than anything is we put together a roster that not only can't make the adjustments you're talking about, but can't do the basic things we need to do just to win football games.
Talking to Luke DeCock. He's a sports columnist, Raleigh News and Observer, covering North Carolina football for 17 years. Clemson at home in 5 weeks.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, look, Charlotte on the road. I mean, this you're now it's your first road game, short turnaround from Monday to Saturday. You got a lot of things you need to fix. You got $1 million quarterback who looked terrible and has a sore back now. There are issues with this team, even if they had won this game, that have to be resolved before the Charlotte game. Now, look, Charlotte struggled in their opener. This is a game that, it's crazy UNC's going on the road. This game was set up years ago, as we all know in college football. But this is no gimme. I mean, they have got to get out there and find a way to execute and do the things that they did on that first drive and failed to do. It was just, the students were leaving, like the third quarter wasn't even half over. The students were gone. By the end of the third quarter, the boosters who'd paid for this were gone. I mean, it was just the way that balloon was punctured and burst and the air just went out of everything. That's tough for players too. Like they have to get back to where they were going into this game to play a team that they're not going to be excited about playing. Forget about Clemson. I mean, that you got to get ready to play Charlotte, which is the kind of game that you would say, oh, this is a potential letdown game. I mean, App State and East Carolina are always tough games for these schools, for UNC and Duke and State, because those are the biggest games on the calendar for those teams. And now Carolina's got to go play in one of those games against a team that's, like everybody else this season, is going to be really fired up about the chance to prove itself against Bill Belichick.
How patient should people be? How patient will the boosters be with Bill?
Boosters are going to be patient because they're pot committed now. They've got no choice. I mean, they made this bed. They're going to have to sleep in it. I think based on the fan reaction last night, the patience is already gone. It's a little unfair. And look, Carolina brought this on itself. Bill Belichick brought this on himself. Mike Lombardi brought this on himself. They talked that they had untied the college football knot. They were going to come in. They were smarter than everybody else. They were better than everybody else. And it turned like, I'm telling you right now, Dave Dorn over in Raleigh, the NC State coach last night, I guarantee you he had a cigar. He had a solo cup of whiskey. He's got his feet up. He's laughing his butt off. Like these guys just came in. We are so much better than you. We have this figured out. We have Super Bowl rings. And they got they got embarrassed in their first college game. I think the fans saw that too. There was a very strong element of the Emperor's New Clothes last night. I joked in my column, like, forget the cutoff sleeves. Belichick got pantsed last night. Like he got exposed. And that, I think, more than anything, really sort of put a pin in the idea that, the UNC is going to be in the CFP and they're going to revolutionize college football. And, they've got a new paradigm. I mean, it was to get beat like that, to be out talented and out coached and out adjusted, and to see what we've known all along, right? TCU they're out there tweeting an image of the Hulu series and saying when's the first episode. Like everybody is gunning for these guys, and they were totally unprepared for it. So I mean, to me, the patience is already gone. People are just kind of wondering how bad it's going to be. And again, look, we talked about this a second ago. This is maybe not the way the whole season is going to go, right? Like, you can get better. And if Bill Belichick is the coach that he says he is and that UNC's boosters are paying for, they will get better and they will learn from this. And now they have film and they know who they can trust and who they can't. But, and if this was John Summerall or Jeff Monken or any of the other coaches they could have hired, we'd all be saying, hey, what did you expect? They have 70 new players, right? This is turnover. There's going to be growing pains and this is going to take time. But that's not what Bill Belichick said. That's not what he promised. They were coming in to change college football to be the 33rd NFL team. And I'm going to make the same joke I made the last time I was with you. Like, yes, this was very Cleveland Browns-esque. It was very much the 33rd NFL team.
Just to confirm, North Carolina is still a basketball school.
I mean, the only Jordan that still matters is Michael.
Mm-hmm. Well, weren't they together with the dignitaries up there all in the same?
Yeah, and Lawrence Taylor and Roy. Yeah, but hey, it's to me... to me, this almost puts more pressure on Hubert Davis because basketball is going to have to make up for this.
The uniforms still look good last night, though, Luke.
That's the most important thing.
Of course, yes. Great to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you maybe after week 5 when North Carolina shocks Clemson, and then what are you going to write in your column then?
I mean, hey, look, man, I'm perfectly prepared for my own comeuppance if they can turn this around. But based on the early returns, I don't necessarily think that's likely. It's certainly possible.
Thank you, Luke.
Appreciate it.
Luke DeCock. He is Raleigh News and Observer sports columnist covering North Carolina football for 17 years.